You're sitting in traffic on a Tuesday afternoon, and the car in front of you is a brand new BMW X5 with the dealer plates still on it. The driver looks like he's about 32 years old, wearing a Carhartt jacket, eating a gas station hot dog. And your brain does that thing it always does. It tries to solve the math. How does that guy afford that car? Because that car is $90,000, and that hot dog is 90 cents something, doesn't add up. Here is the secret. He probably can't afford it. He just signed a piece of paper that lets him pretend he can for 36 months. And somewhere a finance manager is high-fiving himself because the deal closed in under an hour. My name is Zen, and on this channel, we break down the math behind the money decisions nobody is actually doing right. Today, we're talking about the most dangerous financial flex in modern America: looking rich. We've been sold a story that wealth is about what you show the world, but the data says the exact opposite. In fact, the more you try to look wealthy, the faster you're actually destroying your chance of ever becoming it. The $100,000 illusion. Let's start with the big one. The six-figure salary. For decades, $100,000 was the ultimate "I've made it" marker. But in 2026, crossing that line quietly rewires your entire financial life in ways that can be catastrophic if you aren't prepared. Meet two people who both crossed $100,000 on the same Friday. Chase is sitting in his car, staring at his direct deposit, and he's actually laughing because even with that huge check, it's not enough to cover what he already owes this month. Then there's Melly. She sees the same notification, closes her phone, and goes for a walk. The extra money didn't change her life, it just confirmed it. The problem is that $100,000 Tode Hester Ferroning, $36,000 in 1980 ***. Even $100,000 just 6 years ago in 2020 is worth about $124,000 today. We are living in a world where nearly half of American households earn six figures. Yet the six-figure club lounge is a lot smaller and more crowded than we were promised. When you hit that number, the federal government decides you're rich. Suddenly, the student loan interest deduction is gone. Education tax credits evaporate, and your traditional IRA deduction poofs out of existence. You start paying full tuition on life, while your bank account hasn't caught up to the memo. This is the flex trap. You think you've arrived, so you start spending like it. But the math is already collapsing under its own weight. The most expensive subscription service in America, the most visible way people flex is through their driveway. The average new vehicle in America right now costs $49,275. That's a Verage. And Thieva. Yan Thieva Gemently. $767. More than 1 in 5 buyers are now signed up for payments over $1,000 a month for something. That loses value the second it rolls off the lot. When you lease a car, you aren't paying for the car. You're renting the depreciation. You're paying for the chunk of value the car loses while it sits in your driveway. Imagine going to a hotel, and instead of paying for the room, you paid for how much the carpet wore down while you walked on it. That's leasing. You spend $24,000 over 3 years and hand back the keys with zero equity. But buying isn't much better if you do it the way most Americans do. The average car loan is now nearly 6 years long, and 20% of loans are 7 years or longer. A 7-year car loan is longer than the average American marriage. You will still be making payments on that car after the relationship you started, while owning it has ended. By the time you're 3 years into that loan, you've paid almost $7,700 in interest, and the car has dropped 40% in value. This is why 1 in 3 Americans who trade in their cars are underwater, meaning they owe more than the car is worth, an average of $7,200 in the hole. They roll that debt into the next loan, and the cycle of wealth destruction continues. The flex of a new car is actually just a payment treadmill designed to keep you broke forever. The bandwidth tax and the crab mentality. Looking rich doesn't just cost you money. It costs you IQ points. There is a study from Princeton that found financial stress reduces cognitive function by an amount equivalent to losing an entire night of sleep, or about 13 IQ points. Researchers call this the bandwidth tax. When you're drowning in debt to maintain an image, you aren't just stressed, you're literally dumber. You snap at your kids, you forget the grocery list, and you lie awake at 2 a.m. doing mental math you've already done 17 times. And if you decide to stop, if you decide to kill the debt and stop flexing, be prepared for the crabs in the bucket. Only about 23% of American households are completely debt-free, including the mortgage. When you stop co-signing the agreement that everyone has to stay in debt, people notice. Your friends might make comments about how you never want to go out anymore, or how you must have had help. This is the crab mentality. When one crab tries to climb out of the bucket, the others pull it back down. Looking rich is the price of admission for staying in the bucket. The real flex. The crossover point, the truly rich move in 2026, is the one nobody can see. It's the paid-off car in the driveway that has been making its owner wealthier every month just by existing. Let's talk about Alan. At 32, he's frustrated because his $48,000 investment account feels small. But at $500,000 invested, something breaks in his account in a good way. That is the crossover point. At $500,000, a boring S&P 500 index fund, earning 10% a year, generates $50,000 in growth on autopilot. That is more than the median American earns at their job. Your money is out turning your coworkers without showing up to meetings or sitting. Through Brad, from marketing's PowerPoint. Up until $500,000, you were the engine. Your savings rate and your discipline did the heavy lifting. After $500,000, the engine switches drivers. You're the sidekick now. Your job is just to not wreck the machine. This is what optionality looks like. It's the ability to walk into your boss's office and say, "I'm going down to 3 days a week," and actually meaning it because you have the leverage. You don't need a pile of money to be rich. You need the number of doors you can walk through at any given moment. The 2026 reality check. When the flex fails, looking rich is a house of cards that falls apart the moment the 9:47 a.m. Tuesday morning Zoom call happens. Meet Kian. He's a software engineer making $140,000 a year. On paper, he's winning. But he has a $3,200 mortgage and only $9,000 in savings. When he gets laid off, he realizes his runway is less than 2 months. The 2026 job market is a low fire equilibrium. Unemployment looks low on paper, but hiring has collapsed. It now takes an average of 6 months to find a new job. If you've spent your high income on car leases and a big house to look the part, you have zero margin for a 6-month search. In 2026, the safety nets are gone. The pandemic stimulus, the student loan pauses, and the enhanced health insurance subsidies have all expired. If you lose your job today, you are facing a healthcare cliff where premiums have doubled and a 401k hardship withdrawal. That will cost you 10 times more in lost future wealth than the cash you get today. The people who come out of these shocks intact are not the ones with the highest incomes. They're the ones who built the door before they needed it. They're the ones who chose quiet wealth over the dangerous flex. How to build quiet wealth the lazy way. The wealthiest Americans aren't the smartest or the most disciplined. They're the most automated. They understand that the single most expensive thing an investor does is trying. Take Sarah. She's 32, makes $78,000, and turned on auto-escalation in her 401k. She started at 4% and let the toggle bump her contribution by 1% every year. She never made a deliberate decision to save more. The toggle did it for her. That one click is the difference between retiring with 36,000 and retiring 1.05 million ***. She also uses the Stealth IRA, her HSA, instead of using it like a debit card for copays. She maxes it out, invests it in index funds, and pays for medical bills out of pocket. She saves the receipts in a Google Drive folder because there's no statute of limitations on reimbursement. She lets that money grow tax-free for 30 years and then reimburses herself in 2056, while her coworker Mike has 4,000 in. Sarah has 890,000 of it tax-free. Asterisk. The lazy portfolio beats almost everyone. In 2024, the S&P 500 returned 25%, but the average investor only earned 16.5% because they panicked, sold during dips, and tinkered with their accounts. Sarah doesn't even remember her password. That isn't a compromise. It's a mathematically optimal strategy. The real flex is margin. So, here is the truth. The day you feel rich will not arrive because your paycheck got bigger. It will arrive the first Tuesday you realize your expenses didn't grow as fast as your income did. That's the real threshold. Everything else is just marketing. If you want to win, you have to stop playing the game of looking rich. You have to be okay with your neighbor driving the $90,000 BMW while you drive the 2017 Camry with 140,000 miles on it. Because while they are billing their future self for a lifestyle they can't afford, you are building optionality. Your homework for tonight. Pick one lazy habit. Just one. Don't try to do 10. Open a tab, turn on auto-escalation, or update your transfer on Death Todd. Beneficiaries, so your family avoids the $46,000 nightmare of probate court. Spend 30 minutes on it, then close the tab and go watch TV. The default in this country is set to broke. If you do what everyone else does, you flex the car, the house, and the rich lifestyle, you will end up where everyone else is. Stressed, fragile, and one Zoom call away from a crisis. Change the default. Build the machine, then get out of its way. If this helped you rethink your flex, hit the like button. Subscribe if you want the math that the rest of finance YouTube is too scared to show you. Drop a comment and tell me which driveway you're aiming for, the Harrison's Tahoe or the Parker's Camry. I read them all, and it keeps me going. I'll see you in the next one.